Hi there guys, Sam here. Welcome to the Ford Focus RS Heritage Ownership Review. I'm still in a bit of disbelief that I'm actually with this car. I'm going to discuss with the owner as well how he's found this car. Just to let you know, this is one of 50. It's one of the rarest Fords, and like for fast Ford fans, I'm sure you will enjoy this. I'm going to go for a full walk around of this car, talk about it, pretty much my kind of passion. I've owned a Focus RS Edition in the past. Love my fast Fords. If you're familiar with the channel, I've obviously driven a lot of Mark 4.5 facelift like track packs and bits, but you can't beat an RS, and this is the limited RS. I'm still in a bit of disbelief, so you can probably tell from my face, but let's just go around this car first of all. I'll tell you all about it, and then we'll go from there, chat with the owner. And yeah, there's nothing like getting a real life experience of what a car is like. And this particular car has done over 11,000 miles, which is actually really, really rare for a car so limited. I've never seen one in person, despite going to plenty of fast Ford events, never had the opportunity. And yeah, to have the chance to check it out, and big thank you to the owner for allowing, for the opportunity basically. So yeah, let's go through this. And yes, as you can see, and if you're a fast Ford fan, you know exactly what this is. This is a Ford Focus RS Heritage, a 2018 car, one of 50. Super rare, you'd never really see them, you'll never see them on the road. And actually, I did check today, there is one up for sale, and it's currently up for just under £80,000. Bear in mind, this had a list price of about £39,000. That kind of tells you the rarity of this car. And as you can probably tell, there are plenty of lovely cars in this collection. This is actually probably one of the rarest ones, which is a little bit strange to say, and it's just a Ford Focus. I love this. You know, it's a daily car, usable for everyone, and yeah, it's just so special. Let me tell you what actually makes it special. Obviously, the low numbers, being only one of 50, adds to that. This particular car, so stock, they have about 350 horsepower, but this comes with the Mountune 375 package, which gives it 375 horsepower. So it's not modified. That is actually how they come for as sort of normal. So you get a little bit more power. Sounds really nice as well. The owner sort of pulled it out just there. And it comes in teeth orange as well, which is, it's a lovely colour, and it sort of goes back to sort of Ford's history, sort of like the Mark I Escort, and yeah, replicates into that realm. The observant of you might recognise who this car is, and yeah, we'll invite them in to sort of talk about this car as well. And just to show you a few bits that the owner has actually done, which are not standard. Normally, they don't come with orange painted calipers. They're normally sort of in sort of like unpainted silver, but actually I quite like it how it's been changed, and they do have the standard calipers going. Also, the roof has been put in matte black as well. And essentially the RS Heritage came fully optioned, so you didn't really get a choice. You had sunroof, you had basically every option going. You get the forged wheels as well. You also get a Quaife diff at the front as well, and tinted windows at the back, Recaro seats. I just love these cars. And yeah, it's always sort of like, for me, I've always been such a big fast Ford fan. Generally going back for me looking, well, to be fair, with my dad, with his Ford estates, the Sierra estate, Focus estates, never really fast Fords, but that's kind of where it sits with me. And it was my dream car to own my Focus RS Edition, to be fair. And to see this, it's just, I can't even fathom it, certainly with the value and the limited nature of it. And there you go, the Ford Performance Mountune sort of kit in there. And actually what people don't perhaps give credit is that Ford actually really put a fair bit of quality into this car. Like if you actually feel around the diffuser, it doesn't feel all sort of cheapy plastic. It actually feels really good. You get like a Formula One style light, which is really handy with the reversing camera, which I found, because it lights up at the back. Really cool. Twin exhaust pipes as well. Makes a great little burbling noise. And this was one of the first sort of four-wheel drive hot hatches that essentially sort of really introduced the idea of drift mode, something that was introduced sort of really with Ken Block's help, who was a big part of the development of this. And yeah, and then from that, you got cars like the A45S, the Golf R, which I talk about a lot on my channel as well, sort of implementing sort of like the drift mode type feature. But this was where it really all started, and it sort of worked well. It really brought out the excitement. And these cars are brilliant to drive. I love them. And literally, you can have that moment on a road. you want to be in this. And the fact that you can bring people along. I remember one of the trips I did in my RS edition, you know, I went up to Wales, met a subscriber, and it was great. I went with my friend. I collected his Lamborghini Urus Performante, and we took him and his family in my RS edition, went to the dealer, went up to Silverstone, and it was just like that sort of, it just adds to the whole sort of like feel of the car that you can bring people along, and it's such a laugh. I mean, the pops and bangs are absolutely hilarious. They also added these sort of the RS badge with an inlay. Now, normal RSs, which weren't essentially one of the editions, so when I mean the editions, you could get a red edition and you could get the RS edition, which I had the blue one, 500 of the blue ones, 300 of the red ones, 50 of these. But normal Ford Focus RSs, the Mark IIIs, just essentially had this kind of unpainted. You also get like the little sparkle as well, sort of on the spoiler. Very, very cool. Forged wheels as well. And on this owner, I'm seeing what wheel tyres they've got. Pilot Sport. Yeah, Pilot Super Sport tyres. You can obviously put like Michelin PS4s on them, but obviously nice and sticky, nice and fun to use. And then, yeah, you've got the gloss black sort of on the mirror caps too. It just looks so, so mega. So, so mega. And just that stance at the front, I'm sort of blown away by this car. And yeah, lots to kind of talk about, But let's just show you a little bit of the inside, and I'll just pop the hood as well while we're here. This will bring back memories for me, being back in this car. Yeah, you get the Recaro seats, blue stitching, which is quite interesting actually, because obviously the car is in orange, which I always felt matched my RS edition a little bit better. It was the same in the red edition, they kept the blue stitching, but it looks nice nonetheless. You also got carbon fibre here as part of these kind of these special editions with the RS Heritage as well. And you've got it on the handbrake as well, and on the dial just there where you've got the boost gauge and stuff. And I can see that the owner hasn't removed the sat-nav screen either just yet. And actually that again makes a huge difference, because what do you touch and feel? That's such a huge sensation when you're kind of like actually owning a car. And actually it feels really, really good. You lift the handbrake, you know, you touch the door handles, it's the same on the passenger side, and adds to a little bit more quality because, yeah, Fords could use it. Now my car actually had a little bit of the previous owner lowered the seat a little bit because they can sometimes sit a bit higher on the buckets, but I mean, they're proper buckets, and again, differentiate it from, say, like the standard Focus RS, because you would essentially just have like the ST seats, which you can get on normal ones. I mean, even just to sit in it, yeah, it's bringing back a lot of memories actually. It's the first time I've been back in one. Oh, it's just amazing. What a cool place. And you've got the sunroof there up top. Yeah, I feel like it's it's really, really special. And I'm happy to kind of bring it to you. And I'm really interested to know your thoughts in the comments, because I have a lot of Fast Fords fans on my channel, and just to kind of show you what it's like to be in a Heritage, a genuine Heritage, one of 50. Chatting to the owner just beforehand, there's only like 9 registered on the road. This is about as rare as you can get. Really, really rare, really rare. Seats are always quite great. And it actually, in the Mark III Focus, it's actually quite wide. So it's actually plenty of space in here. I really enjoyed it for a lot of the journeys. And you can adjust the suspension as well, so it can go even firmer. It is a firm car anyway from stock. But yeah, before I'll ask the owner, we'll sit in and we'll do a bit of an ownership chat. Oh, actually, that's interesting. It hasn't got the door protectors. I'm curious about that. I thought that came as standard. So I'm learning as we kind of go along. Yeah, and because it's a Ford Focus, it's a Ford Focus. You know, it's freezing outside today. Obviously, this owner has a wonderful garage. But you've got like the de-icer on the front, which is a bit of a Ford patent fun thing, quick clear screen. But if we pop the hood, and then again, blue on the RS side sills, you don't even get that on sort of like, well, I've shared a lot of, say, like the Volkswagen products as well, the Golf Rs, the GTIs. It's all a bit bland. Manufacturers don't really put in the effort now. There we go, definitely not worth talking while I'm opening that, because there's no pneumatic gas strut either. So as you can see with the Heritage, This is essentially what happens. It's like a dealer fit. So once the car gets delivered, they'll fit obviously all the extra induction parts in orange, which is quite nice, to give it that extra power. Now, I would say, having driven Mark III Focus RSs from stock, they feel a bit underpowered because they are heavy. They're, you know, it's four-wheel drive. It does weigh quite a bit, and it's quite a big car actually for a hatch. I love the little lights, and I just love like the orange touches as well. It's a mega car, but that's kind of like the main change. You know, you don't have to technically declare anything because it's stock, it's standard, it's OEM. And it shows the work Mountune kind of do with Ford and how they work together on that. Yeah, what a car, what a car. Yeah, 2.3 litre EcoBoost engine, if I hadn't said before, the 4-cylinder. And this was basically the same engine that they had in the Mustang, the 2.3 as well. Personally, for Mustangs, I think a 5 litre is the way to go. There is a lovely Mustang up top there. I was curious to see the Ford GT as well, to keep the Ford theme going, but that is currently on its way back from America. And yeah, so perhaps maybe another time. But I've always loved like the lights and the look of the car, but it's all subjective. And yeah, for me, it's a great car. I had some wonderful times owning mine, and it's always been a bit of a goal and an aspiration to sort of have. And this does feel to me like I've completed a bit of a Ford cycle, even just being here. And yeah, never expected the opportunity. And yeah, that's essentially the RS Heritage, of a bit of a walk around to give you an idea of what it's like. And let me know in the comments what you think about this car. And if there's anything you want to know just from me kind of being here and being around it. And again, I appreciate there's a lot of wonderful cars here, but yeah, to avoid getting overstimulated, I'm focusing on the RS Heritage, which is quite in keeping with a lot of the hot hatches that I love here and today. And just the little details, which I'd love to see more in a lot of future manufacturers of a lot of cars coming out. In fact, even in my last video, I spoke about Golf R Club Sport, you know, bring some sort of like feeling into it. You know, the UK, we love our fast Fords. It goes back for so far. I still think of like Colin McRae and rallying, and yeah, just so many things about Ford. It really does feel like just a manufacturer that pulls at the heartstrings. I love going to events, particularly like Bewley Simply Ford down in the New Forest, but I've never seen a Heritage before. Yeah, and if you've got a Heritage, if you're one of the few lucky people, yeah, comment to see how you've kind of found it. I know it's a Focus RS with a little bit more, but it's a very, very special car and a very special paint job as well. But yeah, let's chat with the owner, because at the end of the day, he's driven this with his partner as well. They've done plenty of miles in the car, and yeah, curious to know how they found it, because certainly from my experience with the RS, you know, running costs, residuals from all of them, if there's one thing I can recommend, it doesn't matter whether you have a Heritage or an RS edition like mine, or the Red edition, or a normal Mark III RS, they're such good in terms of just their residuals, and that's a big part of your ownership. You can have a car like this, and it can look after your money. You know, work hard to afford these cars, and the Fords are good. Fords are good if you can get them, get the right one. I mean, this is absolutely incredible. So I'm going to take a minute to kind of compose myself, chat with the owner, give you a bit of an ownership review from someone who's really driven it, owned it, and lived with it. And yeah, we'll summarise things from there. So we're here with the owner, Tim, I'm sure you know, Speed 150. I've done a lot of talking at the start of this video. Yeah, tell me about the ownership.
Well, you know a fair bit about this car, right?
Yes.
You had a Mark III. I've had it since new, obviously 2018. Technically it arrived in around, I think it was around April, May 2018. Yeah. But because of the history, I wanted to keep it, I will get it on a 68 plate, right? So I asked them, I was like begging the dealer, could we keep it until the 1st of September so that I could register it on a 68 plate, which kindly they arranged. Since then, it's not been a high mileage car, it's a little over 11,000. So it's been a bit of a daily. I've taken it, it has been to Germany, driven fast on the Autobahn, driven around the Nürburgring, done some fun stuff with it. It's been very sideways in snow, because I had a set of winter tyres for it. But it's one of those, like, I don't want it to be a 50,000 mile car. So it does about 1,000 miles a year, maybe 2,000 miles a year. A little bit of daily driving, commuting. but also trying to appreciate how special it is, because it is. These are super rare, and there aren't very many of them that are still being driven.
Well, this is the first one that I've seen, Tim. Honestly, it's so rare, so rare. How have you actually found in general sort of running costs a bit? Is it a Focus RS?
Yeah, I mean it's a Focus, right? So annual service, I go to a dealer in London, costs in the region of £250 to £350 depending what's needed. And I know it would be probably cheaper at an independent, but it's been to the same dealer every year, every 12 months, in it goes, whether it's done 500 miles or 3,000 miles. It's one of those, like, I just feel like I could save 50 quid, 100 quid maybe, but I'd prefer to just get the main dealer stamp. It's a Heritage RS, you know, and yes, okay, as Heritage RSs go, it's a little modified and it's done a little bit of mileage, whereas some of them are still sitting on like 50 miles. So it's never going to be the perfect ultimate dream collector's version, but I still want to do it right if I can.
Yeah.
Or buy the book. Other costs, tyres. It's, I think, still on the original tyres, which are obviously now a bit old.
Yeah.
They're coming to 7 years old, so I'll change them soon this year, but it's Focus RS tyres again, right? 235.
Yeah.
They're not crazy tyres.
Yeah.
So whatever the latest we'll put on it. I don't know if there's a PS5 in this size or something.
Not too sure.
It's a daily driver. It's like,
well, that's the thing.
It doesn't
you
need
proper
to be
daily. So yourself and your partner have kind of primarily driven it.
For the last year or two, this has basically been her go-to, and it's actually a funny. So for me, the blue Focus RS that I bought back in 2016 when they were brand new, is a funny story actually. I did a press event with Ford. I'd gone to the original launch in Cologne when they launched the Focus RS, and then in Le Mans 2016, which was the big year with the Ford GT returning, Ford lent me one of their press cars to drive to the circuit.
Oh, that's so cool.
I did a press drive, and I was like, this car is mega. I had so much fun with it that 3 weeks later I bought one, which is quite funny because I actually got a lot of comments at the time from people saying you've only bought it to get the Ford GT.
Oh, okay.
But I'll let you know a little secret. I got the Ford GT allocation before I bought the Focus RS.
Oh, wow.
So it's the other way around. So I was told I got the Ford GT allocation, and then a week or two later I bought a Focus RS. Partly though because very spoilt to be in the YouTube space. Buying the car meant that I had an opportunity to make some content with it, to experience it, even if it depreciated a couple of grand. It wasn't going to be the end of the world. It'd be fun to own. But also my partner's very much a Ford girl. Her family has a Ford background, so she loves Ford. So we were like, Focus RS, right, done. Easy choice here. And with the Ford GT then coming, it was obviously like, well, I want to be part of the Ford family, you know, so I'll get a few more Ford products. So I ran the blue one for a while. Then when the red one was announced, the red edition, obviously put in my order for a red edition, which nobody really had ordered. So you could just call a dealer and order the red at the time. They weren't sold out. You could just buy one. It's funny looking at them now because they've become really collectible.
Yeah.
But you could just call and order a red one. The Heritage was a little bit different because nobody knew the Heritage was coming. And it's actually funny with hindsight because I had this inkling that they would do a final send-off. You remember there was all this talk about Last RS?
Yeah.
And like this, and I was like, there's got to be something. I didn't know what it was, and I didn't think it was the red edition. There was the blue edition as well, of course. But I was like, there's got to be something. So I actually said to my dealer, from whom I had bought the blue one and the red one, and a few friends had bought blue ones, and they'd had a couple of orders from me. And I said to them, like, can I put down a deposit for some special edition Heritage RS? And if it happens to turn up, can I have one, please? And they were brilliant, completely brilliant. They said, yep, you're first in line for, you know, whatever it is, if we get one.
Wow.
And they honoured that. So it's funny with hindsight because it actually turned up, this car turned up on the same truck as the red. They came together, which wasn't what I wanted at all. So for a very brief period, I had three. I had the blue one, the red one, and the Heritage one. But they stayed true to that, which a lot of the other dealers didn't with customers who they had offered the car to.
Ooh.
So I was lucky that I had paid the deposit and we'd agreed it. So it was kind of in writing. And then they let me, you know, have the allocation to the Heritage. And I'd like to think that I've been the customer that they would have wanted for this car because I've driven it, used it, kept it, didn't flip it. You know, there was a period where the delivery mileage cars, when they were brand new, easy 25 grand over.
Yeah.
Easily. And you've got to resist that and drive it.
Definitely. I can't believe it was just a pure inkling to kind of say, to put your hat in the ring.
Do you know what? I'm going to say it's an educated inkling. When you know an industry very well, because you not only work in it, but you're very enthusiastic about it, you kind of have an idea of what's coming. You know, you have a better idea of what might be the next club sport something than the next guy does because it's your interest and it's what you follow. And that's exactly the same for me with this. You know, I'm talking to the right people in the right circles, and you have an idea, and so it's a case of playing your cards right almost and figuring out what's coming, not necessarily from. And this is something quite funny. You know, people often are like, oh, you're so lucky because it's gone up in money and that kind of thing. But the reality is, if the car is worth more cash and you're not planning to sell it, in the meantime, you have to pay more for your insurance because you need a higher guaranteed value on it. And you probably need to maintain it and look after it just a little bit more than you might have done otherwise. So actually, it just ends up costing you more. Because I, you know, will I still own this in 10 years? Of course. Like, why would I sell it? You know, especially with my Ford thing going on. You know, I really like Ford as a brand because there's a supercar, a muscle car, a pickup truck, a van, a hot hatch, like everything from this one company. And, you know, I'm lucky to have quite a few of the different cars and multiple Mustangs and GTD coming. But what I really liked was how, and it's a personal thing, I always love if I can find a story and a reason for things. So I don't know if you'd know this backstory, but this is obviously a tribute to the Escort Mark 1 from 68. Back in 68, the Touring Car Championship was won by the Escort Mark 1 in Alan Mann Racing colours, the red and gold. So that's one of the reasons why I then spec my Ford GT in the red and gold with the Alan Mann gold stripe on it. So to me, the Heritage RS has to live with my Ford GT. Like, I couldn't separate them. These two cars kind of very much come together.
It's like the perfect pair.
And it's so funny because they're completely different cars, yet they have the same switches, you know? Actually, it's not identical, but they have the same light toggle. They have the same like feel and parts and the same screen and, you know, kind of software and stuff. And that's it's a bit dumb at the end of the day to be a thing to get excited about. But I like that. I like that kind of. The GT uses all these normal Ford parts except the driving, you know, the carbon tub and the suspension that's incredibly clever and whatnot. But at the end of the day, owning this is also really fun because not only is it a Focus RS, which is great to drive, it's a lot of fun, as you know, really enjoyable car, even now. And on that, I'm going to come back to it in a moment, but the moments when somebody does know what this is are really cool. You know, when somebody's like, is that a Heritage?
I'd be up there straight away if I saw this.
Like, and we've had a couple of those, and it's really cool. People who, some have known my channel, some of course haven't known my channel, and it's really fun because nobody expects to see one being used. So if you do have it out and about, it's wonderful. What I was going to say is I did after this get a GR Yaris, and I had thought, you know, a few years further on, things would have got better. I'd love the GR Yaris. I actually preferred this. I prefer driving this. The Yaris is a little bit less power, a few things about it that are odd, but about the same money. You know, that's something that people forgot. The Yaris was 35. This was about 38 at the time. But there's something about just the way this drives. I know for some people they don't like the seating position. I'm the height of an average British male, and for me it's perfect. So I'm totally cool with that. But I really enjoy the gearbox. I think it's a very nice car to drive. I like the sound of it. I like the way it steers, the way it drives, the usability of it. There's something about hot hatches, especially here in the UK with our roads and our weather. And I'm not going to lie, on a damp, cold, dark winter's evening, if I want to go for a countryside
like tonight even.
Yeah, like this is not a bad car to do it in. That's all I'm saying. You know, it rides over those bumps and sketchy road in a very good way. Just conscious not to stick it in a ditch because it's not replaceable.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's no money can really you can't really put your finger on it on that side.
And I really like, you know, with a lot of my cars that you see in the garage, I like being able to know the full story from new. You know, nearly all of the cars I've had from new, so I spec'd them, ordered them, took delivery of them. I know the full service history of them. I know what went wrong with them. I've got all the files, all the receipts, all everything. You know, with this, I keep everything from every year of its history, right? So I've got all the service books and everything.
You sound similar to me, to be fair. I've got everything, every single page of, like, say, the Golf R, or when I had my Focus RS as well.
If you see my files for all the cars in here, every car has a folder. Every folder has sections. All the sections are like the payment receipts or finance info or banking stuff, and then there's the service documentation, then there's the V5s, the insurance certificates, all of that, everything for every car. I'm way too obsessive with it. And then, you know, here at the garage, I keep every car, even if I haven't just driven it. It's always cleaned, it's always fully fueled, everything's good to go, you know, properly maintained, living on a C-Tech charger, even, you know, with this. So it's always, if I want to go drive it, hop in, clutch brake, hit the start button, go.
Fly away, basically.
Yeah.
Have you had any issues with it over the years?
Nothing with
That's
this.
great to hear.
I don't think I have spent a penny on this other than a few cosmetic details that I wanted to change and the annual service.
That's really good.
I don't think I've spent not a single mechanical, electrical thing has broken. I mean, I could look at my notes to check.
But there was obviously talk about the engine before the 2.3. A few owners would say that they had some sort of issues in the reliability.
Well, you remember in the early days of the blue ones, the head gaskets were going.
Yeah.
That was a big thing.
But this is obviously because mine was a 2018 one as well. This is obviously 2018.
Yeah.
They sort of
by then
they'd
fixed everything. It was the early 16 cars, I think. The head gasket issue had come because they had used the part from the Mustang or something.
Yeah,
like
the Mustang 2.3.
Yeah, and which clearly wasn't made for this engine exactly. So anyway, that didn't happen to my blue one, so that wasn't a problem. I ran the first blue one. I did around, honestly, off the top of my head, about 16,000 miles in. Then in the red one, I did about 10,000, and then in this we've done 11.
So you've clocked up a fair few miles.
I mean, it's not bad going, right? Between the three was 37,000 miles. So I've got a fairly good idea of how the car works. And I find, like, if I have a lot of people like, it's so boring, you have three of the same car, but if I like a car, I like sticking with it.
Yeah.
And I think there's no better way of, especially in the YouTube and social media world, there's no better way of saying what I like than the fact that I literally stuck my money in it 3 times.
Yeah.
You know, and I lost a lot of money on the blue one. That wasn't a profit-making venture. The red one, we did a lot of upgrades on it, so I spent a fortune on it. So I lost a little bit of money because of how much we did with modifications. But the car itself, if I'd kept it stock, would have held rough value. This, of course, has gone up. But again, like I say, it's only relevant if you sell it.
Yeah, that's very
sell
true.
it,
and out of interest, out of all your RSs, which one's been your favourite? Like, would you recommend that someone modifies it, or do you prefer it stock, or do you prefer it with...
I loved doing, so my red edition, by way of a background, rebuilt the engine with Mountune, full Ventus Veloce carbon fibre body kit. Like, we went crazy with it, BBS wheels, like, we did everything. And I loved doing that. It was probably the most extreme tuning project I've done. I say I've done, obviously I've paid for the parts to be installed and had them done rather than literally sitting in the workshop myself. But I think if it's like your only car, doing that comes with the downsides of things don't necessarily work, and you got to go to a shop and have things looked at, and it's part and parcel. You know, I always kind of say here, one of the reasons I don't modify any of the Ferraris in any way that I have is because if something goes wrong, I just couldn't deal with it. Like, it'd be too stressful. So I was very happy to modify the red because I also had the Heritage arriving very shortly thereafter, and it's a bit of fun. Like, it was the whole point of the car. But I probably wouldn't do it again on the red edition, knowing how special they are now. Because you take a lot of that away, especially when you completely redo an engine.
Yeah, you know, that's fully forged, wasn't it?
The originality of it's gone. You know, a couple of the cars I've played with, like my AMG GT Black Series right over my shoulder, that's been resprayed. It's got some Opus upgrades running about 120 horsepower more than standard. While I've not changed the wheels or stuff like that, it's a car I'm keeping, and it's got that kind of like, it's a Mercedes, so it's probably going to run well and nothing will break, hopefully. I say that when I'm sitting here, it needs a new power steering pump, it's got an oil leak, it needs new ceramic discs.
Looks stunning, by the way. There's so many amazing cars around here. There's so much to kind of go through as well.
I love that you walked in the door and were like, let's talk Focus RS.
Go to the Focus RS Heritage. This is the car we're here for. And like, I thought about this before. I was like, oh, I'm going to get sidetracked by everything. And I'm like, you know what? Let's focus on the Focus. It's like that's where we can go for. And it's super rare. So for people kind of looking at actually wanting to get, whether it's a Mark III Focus RS or a limited one, is there any sort of like advice you'd kind of give them? Or
I mean, Focus RS's Mark IIIs have proven in recent years to hold their value well. I mean, I sold my blue one, I want to say, for about 20.
Oh wow! So that was like right at the bottom.
Right at the bottom. Yeah. I mean, I think the blue one had cost 35 on the nose, I want to say, pre-price lifts. So I lost as much as that car ever lost, and whoever bought it from me hasn't lost any more. Another however many years later on, or 7 years later, Jesus. I think that it's pretty cool when it's a car like that your money's going to be fairly safe. I mean, even now your money's going to be fairly safe in a Focus RS because it's unlikely that there'll ever be another RS.
Yeah, I'd be very surprised.
No whispers of that right now. They're not too expensive to maintain. There's an amazing community around them. You know, there's the RS Owners Club. There's just tons of groups, Facebook, Instagram, stuff like that. And that's something it's something I really enjoy. I've not been able to ever go to as many of the events as I wanted to. You know, Ford Fair, Simply Ford. There's tons of Ford stuff. And I'd love to have been able to go to more of them, but I'm always away when they happen, which is always typical.
If it works out, I'd certainly say Bewley, Simply Ford, just because it's a lovely place.
Yeah.
Horses and everything, New Forest, so it's a good place to go.
Fun run out. Should bring the Ford GT, the Focus RS, and the GT500.
Oh, that'd be unbelievable.
The trio. I've never had the trio out on the road together.
Oh, yeah, in the comments, yeah.
Ideas worrying. That'd be a cool, like, photo shoot.
It's such an amazing place to go down. I spent my time down there with family, went back when I was younger, so going back there, it's just a tranquil, lovely place. Great atmosphere with Ford fans.
Yep.
They're so welcoming, and the community is what gets me with Fords as well.
I like the brand a lot because, you know, the history of Ford, Henry Ford and everything from the early days, but Fords are to so many people an accessible car in different segments, right? The Americans who buy an F-150, the Europeans and the Brits who buy the hatches, whether it's a regular Focus or Fiesta, sadly not anymore, but all of the different cars that they have through the lineup. Yet they have these halo cars as well, and the history of like the GT40 and the Ford GT from 05, 06 and the new one, and all of the different Shelby cars. And there's just so much cool stuff. There's something for everyone. It's something that that then as a result doesn't have, or certainly not from my experience. Of course, you get a little bit of like Golf R versus Focus RS and whatever. But generally speaking, people are very positive in the direction of Fords and the whole kind of family around it. Something I've particularly liked, obviously through the videos I've made, Ford themselves have been very welcoming to me since. I guess because when they allocated me the GT, they were taking a bit of a chance that I wasn't just going to flip it. Because there were only 12 GTs originally in the UK.
Wow.
So 12 were originally delivered in the 2018 batch. And I got number 12 of those, the last one. So they clearly took a very big chance on me. And I guess because I've taken it around the world and done so much stuff with it, they've been really hospitable in terms of inviting me to events. And obviously the GTD is coming now. Things that are missing though from my collection are like a 60s Mustang, and you know there's more stuff to think about. So working on it
definitely. Well, Tim, I mean, I could chat with you for hours about this car. I love the Focus RS, and actually I ran a Focus RS alongside my Golf R for 6 months, did about 4,000 miles in it, loved it to bits. I can always recommend them, but hearing it from someone who's had it for even longer, it's just great to have, and that's a big part of my channel with the ownership reviews and stuff. Yeah, I can't think of any more questions off the top of my head. Anything in your head that someone might be find interesting in the RS heritage, other than the fact that you're probably not going to see one on the road, and if you did, it's probably going to be yours.
It's probably this one or one other that's frequently driven. But outside of those two, I mean, I don't know if you dived into the numbers, but of the 50 that were originally obviously all allocated for the UK to say thank you to the UK market, only, I believe, 35 of them were ever registered, and only 9 of them are still registered, which is nuts to think about. It means 41 of these are not driving anywhere. Yeah. Which is crazy. And out of those 9, probably only half of them are. I would imagine that only 4 or 5 of these are actually being driven still.
Which is such a shame, really, because you could drive around in it, and it's still worth good money.
So it's funny when you start looking up any car though, because I often do this just out of interest, look at what cars are on Sawn and who's driving. Even the GT Black series, there were 51 originally in the UK, only I think 24 of them currently taxed.
20? Oh wow. Okay.
Which is like crazy. Like more than half of them are not being driven. And you know, it is what it is. This was obviously from a tax point of view after the new system began. So it's base rate, so it's 200-ish a year.
That's why I like it, and that's what I did with my Golf R. I got it after April 2017, so I paid the low tax. Same with my
but it makes
RS
a big difference on some of these cars. Certainly for me, the one that I missed is the GT8. The GT8 is a January 17 car.
Oh no,
So
it's literally 2 months
now
out.
750 quid a year when it could have been 190.
Yeah, that's the, and I look at that tax, that 2017 to like 2018 era, particularly with pre-OPF, because that's why they stopped this RS, because of the fact that they couldn't get it through the emission side of things. So you always knew any RS you got, it's going to sound as good as it could sound as well.
And it makes interesting sounds. Some people will say the pops and bangs are too artificial. But what I like at least about it is that they're different.
Yeah.
You know, some cars you'll lift off and it'll be the same noise every single time.
Yeah.
At least with this, it varies a little bit.
And it's got some like whooshes and some whirs, and I noticed it when it's sort of you coming out as well.
Yeah, because it has the mounting upgrades. It doesn't have the sound suppression system, which they sell additionally. So when you've just started it for the first minute, you get this kind of whistle from the intakes, which I think is cool. It's a unique sound.
I love it. It brings back that kind of that connection, the feeling in cars as well.
Because I did the FPM 375 on my first one, and I did the catback exhaust as well.
Yeah.
But I put on a sound suppression, so if you do that, I think it's called a sound suppression chamber. If you do that, you don't then get that whistle. So I'd never heard it before. And when I started this one for the first time, I was like, is something broken? But now I've grown to it, and it's just the whistle of the Heritage RS.
Yeah.
You know? It's just what it does.
It's part of the car, Well, I love them, and I'm sure if you've watched this, you kind of love this too. And it sounds like it sounds like it's not going to leave your collection anytime soon.
This will be here for the long haul.
Yeah, and I hope so too. And yeah, I think that's probably it, Tim. Thank you so much for coming by. Thank you for sharing it, and get involved in the comments. I obviously owned one as well, and it's a special car to be in. So awesome.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Tim.